Something bad is happening in Great Britain. Something very, very bad. It's gotten so bad that a woman, a young girl, was harassed by police because she was waving the Union Jack, their national flag. We're going to show you that compelling video and what else has been going on in Jolly UK coming up in just a sec, plus a Looney Tunes story out of Des Moines, Iowa, where a criminal illegal immigrant was not only an upstanding member of the community, he was the superintendent of public schools. And it's got woke mob mentality written all over it. And finally, a very special one-on-one with Dinesh D'Souza, his brand new film, The Dragon's Prophecy, all about the October 7th atrocity and the truth about what's going on in Israel. All that and a whole lot more coming up right now. Bonjour from Montreal. Yeah, why not? I'm Larry O'Connor, and you can call me Larry. That's right. We're on location this week for the first couple of days at least, doing a fact-finding mission to our neighbors to the north. So hello, Canada. Everything's going pretty good, except you can't get a medium rare hamburger. What's that all about? Anyway, we're glad to be here, and it's going to be a rip-roaring show. Make sure you give us some likes and some subscribes and all of the things that you can do right now while you're watching to help our show out. And it doesn't cost you a thin dime, not even a Canadian dime. They've got those. It's weird. Thanks for all the support you give to our show. When inflation jumps, when you hear the national debt is over $37 trillion, do you ever think maybe now is the time I should be buying some gold? Whether it's a hedge against inflation or as a sensible diversification, Birch Gold Group believes every American should own physical gold, and they want to make it easy for you. So you've only got 2 more days left until September 30th. If you're a first-time gold buyer, Birch Gold is offering a rebate of up to $10,000 in free metals on qualifying purchases. You got to claim eligibility, though, to start that process. Do it right now. Request an info kit. Just text my name, Larry, to 989898. Plus, Birch Gold can help you roll an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. And you're still eligible for a rebate in free metals up to $10,000. Make right now the time for you to contact Birch Gold. Take advantage of a rebate up to $10,000 when you buy by September 30th. Text my name, Larry, to 989898. That's Larry, 989898. Do it today. Listen, we've been watching what's going on in the United Kingdom, Great Britain in particular, where people are showing their national pride. They're waving their English flags, their Scottish flags, the very cool Welsh flag, and of course the Union Jack, expressing their love of their nation and patriotism for their homeland. And waving your national flag is now seen as a form of protest, as a form of offensive, even illegal protest. What the hell is going on over there, you guys? Take a look at this video that surfaced over the weekend. A young girl waving the Union Jack in London, and watch what the police do.
Whoa. Why would you do that?
Because you're being a kid. Not getting it.
Should I get a flag back?
No.
Why not? This is Louis, yeah?
Yeah.
16 years old. It's just that the flag that you're being carrying snatched out your hand by that police officer. Shocking, isn't it? I know.
Crazy scenes.
Sorry, it's not London, it's Newcastle. 16-year-old girl waving the flag of their nation. Yes, in a form of protest, but the protest meaning we love this country, this is our nation, this is our country. And of course, all of this has to do with the incredibly destructive illegal migration that has occurred in the United Kingdom and the current government, who seems incapable of doing anything about it or unwilling to do anything about it. Laws, cultural standards and norms completely turned upside down to accommodate the invaders rather than to protect the people's nation, the people who built that nation, the people who pay for that nation. and pay for those very law enforcement officers who are, well, telling you they're keeping the peace. But what they're really doing is awaking a sleeping giant. Take a look at this video where a man is pulled over and harassed by police because of a bumper sticker.
You're just holding us up for no reason.
Okay.
Well, have we committed a crime?
We're just trying to have a discussion at the minute.
No, I'm asking you a question. Have we committed a crime?
So at the minute, you've got the word wanker that's displayed on the side. So someone might take offence to that. I know, obviously, you might see it as a different way, but technically, it's a public order offence.
The only person who would take offence to that is Keir Starmer. Everyone else agrees with it.
I'm not saying anything in terms of that. I've got to remain biased, but that's obviously why I've come down to.
But if we've not committed a criminal offence, then can we go?
Well, just for the time being,
it's in terms of you've got Britain First written on the side of the van.
So
what's wrong with that? It's a prescribed organisation.
No, it's not.
What?
It's a registered political party.
Just give us 2 seconds to run everything through. But obviously you're detained at the minute.
We're detained.
You know why.
We're detained.
All right, so real fast, jumping in here. On one side of the van, it says Britain First, which she's calling a prescribed, basically treating it like a terrorist organization. It's actually a political party. On the other side, there was a message about the Prime Minister calling him a wanker. For my very large American audience, just Google it. You'll see. I mean, I guess some people could find that offensive, but mostly the Prime Minister. But the whole point of living in a democracy, and Great Britain is much more of a democracy than we are here in America, where we're a constitutional republic, is to be able to call your elected officials a wanker. It's the whole point. Crying out loud. These are the people who gave us the Magna Carta. I believe one of the provisions within the Magna Carta is that you could call the king a wanker if you wanted to. All right, maybe not the king, but certainly the Prime Minister. All right, watch how this ends.
It's a prescribed
terrorist organisation.
What? That is insane.
Heavens.
Prescribed terrorist organisation when we are a registered political party. A registered political party.
Unbelievable. It's got Britain First on the side and we're prescribed. And look how ridiculous this is. Turn the camera around and look over there.
Look over here. This is where they've pulled us up. That's right there. Illegal immigrants. Yet we're a prescribed terror organisation, according to that police officer.
That's what's going on in Great Britain right now, and it gets worse. The English flag, apparently, is also a form of intimidation and an offensive symbol. The flag of England is an offensive symbol in England.
I'll just head on down to the protest then.
Right, so I'll put your flag away until you get there.
What's happening here?
The thing that I've got to put my flag down, I can't have it at any part in the city or anywhere.
Why is that?
I've got to put it away and take it back out my bag.
That he can't have his flag?
There's conditions in place in relation to protest.
Palestinian.
By the way, real fast, why is it so many of these cops over there in Great Britain look like they're looking to change my Cracker Barrel logo? Is every police officer named Karen over there? Where are the black, thick glass frames? There seems to be a pattern of behavior here. No offense to white, blonde women who are drunk on power and want to tell you how to live your life and what opinions you're allowed to have. No, actually, offenses 100% intended here. What is going on here? Did you really decide to become a cop so you could do this? And the answer is yes. Yes, they want to be able to boss men around. Alpha men who are proud of their nation and flying their flag. Honestly.
Flags flying along there, you know.
They're in their designated protest area.
So you have to have a designated protest area?
Yeah,
What's happening, watch all the time.
They've got their flags out, they're in their designated area, which
But isn't the UK just a designated area for your flag anyway?
Well, today there's obviously...
Isn't that right? The whole of the United Kingdom is a designated area for the flag, isn't it? So you can only fly that in certain areas?
Who made that rule up to
They're
date?
all on the lamppost.
Billy Moore.
I know, but your bosses are lefties and they're all for that. How can you fly a Palestinian flag?
They are in that designated protest
This is our
area.
country, man.
They're in the
This is our
designated protest
country.
area.
This is our country. What does that mean? What is it? Is it a blister? You get a blister for getting next for that? I don't, mate. You're walking.
I've never heard that before. I have never heard that one before. You can only fly your flag in a designated area.
The protest area.
They're going to put any flags down, Billy. It should be their ones there, man.
It doesn't make sense.
They give you their own.
There you go. You can only fly your flag in a designated protest area. And of course, they made the point of saying, well, these people are flying the Palestinian flag. Said, oh, well, it's okay. They're in the designated protest area. But by the way, there's a premise there that we should all reject. And that is, while you're in England, while you're in Great Britain, while you're in the United Kingdom, that in some way all flags are supposed to be treated equally. If anything, yeah, fine. Okay, the people flying a foreign country's flag here on our soil, make them go into the designated area. But the rest of this place, you know, the country, that should be our designated area to be able to fly our flag for our nation, the nation that we pay for. The salary copper that we pay for comes out of our tax dollars, and you're telling me that we can't fly the flag of the country that we love. And you saw the Union Jacks and the English flag. Welsh flags we'll get to in a minute. That's a badass flag. I like the Welsh flag. What the hell is going on over there? What the hell is going on in the United Kingdom? Something happened here in America very similarly, and we have Flag Day. It happens to be Donald Trump's birthday too, June 14th. The lefties who control our public school system, the crazy left-wing ideologues, several years ago, they decided to change Flag Day to not just be about the flag of the United States of America, but the flags of all countries. And students in the public schools were encouraged to bring the flag of their country of origin or their parents' country of origin if they were anchor babies and mom and dad are here illegally. So suddenly, in lots of school districts in California in particular, Flag Day became a day to celebrate the flag of Mexico and the flag of Honduras and Guatemala and El Salvador. And we're like, it's our Flag Day. It's not the United Nations Flag Day. The whole purpose of Flag Day is the American flag. But they've certainly taken it one step further there in Great Britain, literally making the display of your flag a crime. It's getting worse there in other areas in England as well. Take a look at this headline from a new development from the National Health Service. That's the government-run socialized medicine program you've got there in the UK. First cousin marriage has benefits, says NHS, guidance despite birth defect risk. Tory MP says health service should stop taking the knee to damaging cultural practices. Now, why suddenly in the United Kingdom would they change their policy and say, yeah, marrying your first cousin is no problem at all? In fact, it's probably good for you. I mean, you'd think they'd learned the lesson of all the inbreeding in the royal family over the generations past, but this obviously has nothing to do with Anglo-Saxon marriages. It has to do with, well, illegal immigrants coming from nations where culturally they're actually encouraging first cousin marriages. You can connect the dots and figure out which cultures those are in particular. So the National Health Service is now encouraging that. And oh boy, you better watch yourself if you want to speak out about things like that on your Facebook page. Take a look at this chilling moment as a judge wearing the very smart-looking Thomas Jefferson wig, like he's about to do some Declaration of Independence cosplay, but the judges still wear those things over there. He reads the sentencing for a person who complained about these policies on Facebook. This will freak you out.
To a post questioning why, you wrote, because they're over here, given life of Riley, off the tax us hard-working people earn when it could be put to better use. Come over here with no work visa, no trade to their name, and sit down and doss. And then there's more people being put out homeless each year. They get top band priority on housing. You went on to say that you did not want your money going to immigrants who, quote, rape our kids and get priority, end quote. although you said that you had no intention of carrying out any act of violence, there can be no doubt that you were inciting others to do so.
I'm sorry, I'm terrified by that phrase, that sentence that you just heard. Although you claim that you weren't intending to carry out any violence, there can be no doubt that your words incited others. No, actually, there's quite a bit of doubt. In fact, I think it's incumbent on you to show evidence of such a thing. And even so, Facebook posts and expressing your opinion on Facebook that some other deranged individual take to heart and decide they want to carry out violence is not your fault, unless you actually say in your Facebook page, hey, we should all commit violent acts because of this. No, that's outrageous. But by that measure, this show could be seen as incitement to violence because you tune in to hear me express my strongly worded opinion about things that we get passionate about. I mean, we actually have a room full of soccer hooligans watching this show every day over in Birmingham. Are you guys okay? Do you blink twice if you need help? This guy is getting sentenced to jail for multiple years for so-called incitement to violence because he expressed his political opinion on Facebook.
Otherwise, why post the comment? You expressed remorse, but by that time it was too late. For the offence of publishing written material in order to stir up racial hatred, there are sentencing guidelines which I must and will follow. The maximum sentence is 7 years imprisonment. In my judgment, this comes close to harm category 1. However, for the purposes of this sentence, I will treat you as falling into category 2, since there was no direct encouragement towards activity which threatens or endangers life. However, you fall towards the top of category 2. For a category 2A offence, the starting point is 2 years imprisonment with a range between 1 and 4 years custody. In mitigation, I take into account your plea of guilty, for which you will receive full credit of 1/3 following your earlier admissions. I take account of the contents of the references from your mother, friend, and employer. These can only be of limited value in the current circumstances, as can the contents of the pre-sentence report. I take account too of your expression of remorse, your lack of convictions which are racially aggravated, that you are in employment and you have a partner and family. In passing sentence, I take into account the purposes of sentencing, in particular in relation to this case, punishment and deterrence. As is recognised on your behalf, this offence is so serious that an immediate custodial sentence is unavoidable. Would you stand, please? The sentence that I pass has been reduced by 1/3 to reflect your guilty plea.
He ended up getting 2 years. 2 years. He was going to be in prison now for 2 years for posting on Facebook his disdain and anger over policies in his government that he votes for, that he pays for, that he's displeased with. He didn't call anybody to violence. He didn't commit any violent act himself. He expressed himself on a social media platform, which, by the way, based on the privacy settings, could very well have just been him expressing himself to his friends and family that maybe someone took a screenshot of or shared around. 2 years in prison. As chilling as we think it is here in America with the infringements on our First Amendment rights, just look at what happens in a country where there are no First Amendment rights, where there isn't a First Amendment at all. And I got to tell you, the delivery from this guy with his ridiculous wig and his tribunal uniform in that even-toned, judgmental voice I guess he's a judge, so it's appropriate for him to have a judgmental voice. With the hands clasped, that was more terrifying than any gory horror film you can see. It's no wonder that the pushback is becoming serious. Here's a pub called Orwell. They've got a banner identifying themselves as the Ministry of Truth, and they have an ongoing artistic display quoting 1984, explaining that 2 + 2 = 5, you must comply. And Big Brother is watching you. It's a very popular place because they're living through it right now. Orwell would be proud or terrified, depending on your perspective. More on how Big Brother is watching everything the Brits do and how it pretends for our life here in America in a moment. But we are being challenged by our friends across the pond. The patriots who love their flag would like to send a message to we Americans.
How is it not okay to fly your own flag in your own country and be proud? Americans, we don't know if you have seen, but right now in the UK, something magical is happening.
We are putting flags up everywhere. We just drove back from Ireland, and everywhere, bridges, sign, lampposts, everywhere has the Union Jack flying, the English flag, the Welsh flag. Very cool to see.
We are taking note from our American brothers and sisters. We are flying the flag, the British flag, high and proud. And it's amazing because that's one thing that we love about America.
Yeah.
Is how you guys are so proud and you are so patriotic and you have the American flag flying everywhere. Huge flags. We don't have any huge flags like that over in the UK.
Oh yeah, no, but it gives us goosebumps when we see these US flags.
But there is something going on with that. The media is somehow twisting it and selling it in a negative light, using the R word, if you know what I mean.
And these flags are being taken down.
They're taking flags
because
down.
People are too sensitive and can't handle it.
How is it not okay to fly your own flag in your own country and be proud? How is that an issue in any way? We want to know your thoughts on that, Americans. Do you think that is absolutely absurd, not being able to fly your own flag in your own country and being proud? I know how bloody proud you guys are, so I know it's going to annoy you as much as it annoys us.
Yes, let us know.
Yeah, it does, and we're letting you know right now it annoys us. In fact, it's a shock to the system when American goes to England and we don't see your flag flown as often as and as ubiquitously as we see it flown here. Make no mistake, you do see a handful of Union Jacks when you're in London, I suppose, but not flying outside people's homes the way we fly them here in America outside our homes. In fact, I was in England last summer and I saw homes flying the Ukrainian flag and businesses flying the Ukrainian flag in a sign of solidarity with Zelensky more frequently than I saw the English flag or the Union Jack flown. It's insane. And the fact that flying your own flag in your own country is now seen as a sign of protest, well, considering the changing cultural and ethnic makeup of your country right now, with the rampant influx of foreigners who still pledge allegiance and fly the flag of their country of origin proudly, well, it's no wonder that you're starting to feel a little bit defensive and a little bit protective of your country, your culture, and your flag. Is it no wonder that this famous moment happened this summer with this poor Scottish girl?
Yes, you have a knife.
Fucking help me! You're fucking bad and
Why are you fucking with us?
You're fucking cat bastards!
Show the knife. Show the knife. Show the knife.
Away from us!
Show the knife. Show the knife.
Don't touch her!
That's it. That's it. Show the knife.
Don't touch my waist!
Show the knife. That's it.
Don't fucking touch my waist! Don't touch she ain't fucking 12! We can't fucking touch me! She's fucking 12 and you just battered me, mate! We can't fucking touch me!
Yeah, show the knife. Maracha.
Don't touch her gun to me! Don't touch her!
Yeah, the young teenage girl having to arm herself to protect herself in her own neighborhood is suddenly the villain in the eyes of the political elite in England. Something seriously wrong. By the way, the latest controversial move from Keir Starmer, the Prime Minister of England, is to force everyone in the United Kingdom to take on a digital ID. A lot of people see this as more Orwellian power moves from the government in a way to track your movements and track your behavior online. He claims that it has to do with their intent on making sure that illegal migrants aren't working. And the only way to do that is with a digital ID system. That way we'll be able to finally stop all of the employers who are hiring illegal immigrants. But take a look at this exchange on BBC where Starmer was challenged on the basic premise of his policy, and he had no answers. This is pathetic.
One of our viewers got in touch and wanted us to ask this question. Russ Brown wanted us to ask you if you really believe that those profiting from human trafficking will think, oh dear, I have to check your digital ID now. I can't carry on paying you £1.50 an hour to work in my sweatshop.
I'm absolutely convinced that amongst the reasons that people travel through France, which is a safe country, to come to the United Kingdom, amongst the reasons is because it's easier to work in our illegal economy than it is in other countries. And we have to deal with that.
Bosses who are prepared to hire people illegally are not asking them for their national insurance card. So what's the evidence? What makes you think they're suddenly going to ask them for a digital ID?
We need to be really clear. You must have ID, mandatory digital ID in order to work, because we have to stop illegal working. If you look at any of the raids, we've massively increased the number of raids on working premises. It is absolutely clear that people are working illegally in numbers.
But why do you think that them having
acceptable.
a digital ID, having to have a digital ID, would stop that problem when right now people are meant to have a national insurance number and card, and if they're not asked for that, a boss is willing already to break the rules? What's the difference going to be?
Well, the difference is this is on point of starting, not a retrospective exercise as it now is. It is an automatic collection of the information by the government, so we know exactly who is working in our economy, and it will help us enforce the rules that are there. But there's no point people saying to me, why do we need it, when we all acknowledge there is a problem. People are working illegally in our economy. It is amongst the reasons that people want to come to the United Kingdom. We have to deal with that. I made a pledge that we would do whatever was necessary, use whatever tools were available to deal with illegal migration. I intend to do so.
Yeah, that instills confidence. You see, it's already the law in the United Kingdom, just like it's the law here in the United States, that you can't work if you're in the country illegally. You have to, here in the US, you need to have a green card, be a naturalized citizen, or be a naturally born citizen. Anything else, you can't work. And yet, we know that people are working here illegally via identity theft or because employers are breaking the law and not checking the ID. So if that's already the law, how is the solution to introduce a brand new kind of ID? That, of course, all the people who follow the law, law-abiding citizens, they'll follow it. And of course, with the digital ID, there's great risk of infringement on your privacy and your private behavior. But you'll follow the law. But the people who are bound and determined to break the law, like those people who engage in identity theft now, or just work without proper identification and citizenship, and those employers who hire them without any concern, they're not going to follow the new law if they're not following the old law. And when challenged on that, he had absolutely no answer. Oh, well, because this will be acting proactively instead of retroactively. That makes no sense. That's like saying, we have to have a new law against murder because, we don't want to work retroactively with that old law against murder because people were breaking it and killing each other. So now we're going to come up with something new. No. You just enforce your existing laws. Enforce your existing laws. And for Americans watching this transpire with some level of bemused superiority because of our Constitution and our Bill of Rights, I just want you to know that we are a very, very, very small step away from going down the same path that our friends in England are going down right now. And you know it. You know what we went through during the pandemic and the censorship and the controls on our speech at that time, all under the guise of public health safety. Well, what happens when what you say and what you post and what flag you fly outside your house or what political sign you put on the side of your home or your car is also seen as some level of offense or incitement or just plain inappropriate for the culture that we live in now. It all depends on who you're voting for to enforce those laws. and to determine how those laws should be applied. And if you don't think it can happen here, if you don't think that migration policy and the degradation of our American culture under the guise of diversity and inclusion and multiculturalism can put us in a place where they are right now in England, you're not paying attention. Here's video of just your average evening in Dearborn, Michigan last week. What Barack Obama once referred to as the most beautiful sound he'd ever heard, the call to prayer. Funny thing about the call to prayer in Dearborn, Michigan, though, if a Catholic church wanted to blast out Ave Maria at the same volume in Dearborn, if there is still a Catholic church in Dearborn, that would be against the public ordinance against high volume music and sound. It actually breaks the law. The call to prayer is also breaking the law. You're not supposed to do what you just saw in that video, and yet it happens 5-6 times a day, I think. In fact, somebody in Dearborn, Michigan, a citizen, taxpayer, law-abiding voter, complained to the city council and the mayor about the call to prayer, saying, we have laws here, and the call to prayer violates our law. It's a sound ordinance. Why isn't it being enforced? The response was, well, you know, shut up, racist. Just letting you know what's going on, y'all. And letting you know how bad it can get. England, we're with you. Great Britain, stay hard, stay firm, and stand strong. We got you. We do. Want to remind you real fast, we're going to be doing our super test. Did it get darker in here, Kevin?
Yes, it did.
Do I need to adjust that? Or are you happy?
No, it's totally fine.
It's not a controlled environment. It's not my studio. It's a hotel. But we're doing our best. I got lighting here, but we're going to be doing your super chats after this next segment, and Dinesh D'Souza is coming up as well. So don't go anywhere. Keep it here. But first, we've got a Looney Tunes story out of Des Moines, Iowa. Take a look at this. Over the weekend, an outrageous story developed in Des Moines, Iowa, of all places, where the all-female school board wanted to hire their superintendent of public schools, and they really wanted to go the DEI route. I mean, super diverse. I mean, so diverse that hiring an African-American wasn't good enough. They hired an African. Only problem is he wasn't in the country legally. In fact, he was facing a deportation order. What happened next was insane. Here's how the Department of Homeland Security detailed the events. This criminal illegal alien with prior weapons charges was working as the superintendent of Des Moines Public Schools. ICE Des Moines, Ian Andre Roberts, a criminal illegal alien from Guyana in possession of a loaded handgun. Roberts has existing weapon charges from February 5th, 2020. Roberts entered the U.S. in 1999 on a student visa, was given a final order of removal by an immigration judge in May of 2024. The illegal alien was hired despite his criminal record, which should alarm parents of the Des Moines School District. ICE law enforcement is doing great work every day to remove public safety threats. Here is the illegal immigrant criminal in question, who, yes, was hired as the superintendent of schools for Des Moines. There's the loaded gun that was found in his car upon his arrest. In fact, the deportation order, as just noted, goes back to May of 2024. That's when Joe Biden was president. Can I just say, for your record as an illegal immigrant to rise to the level of deportation under Alejandro Mayorkas, Kamala Harris, and Joe Biden, what kind of dirtbag criminal do you have to be? Because they were keeping murderers in the country without deportation orders and rapists. This guy was facing a deportation order in the country illegally. He's pulled over by ICE officers in Des Moines. He realizes they're from ICE. He hightails it in his car and speeds away and resists arrest. High-speed chase ensues. He pulls over, ditches his car, runs into a wooded area. They bring out the canine dogs after him, track him down, hiding in bushes. He had $3,000 cash. He had the loaded firearm in his car along with a knife. He's the superintendent of schools for Des Moines, Iowa, and the circumstances surrounding his employment and the reaction of the school board is amazing. Here, watch this.
This board delivered on all fronts, and as such, I am thrilled today to introduce to Des Moines Public Schools, the Des Moines community, and the state of Iowa, Des Moines' 14th superintendent, Dr. Ian Roberts. On behalf of my board colleagues, thank you all. I am pleased to welcome Dr. Ian Roberts to Des Moines and Des Moines Public Schools. Dr. Roberts.
Thank you, Madam President. I stand here this evening before you with immense gratification and certainly a sense of pride and humility. I am incredibly grateful for the vote of confidence that the board has shown.
Yeah, just so you know, pal, you're not nearly as proud as those women on the school board. They are so proud of themselves. They are spraining their arms, twisting to pat themselves on the back because they're so proud of how virtuous they are, how inclusive they are, how they've led with equity and diversity, bringing you in there. See the woman in the orange dress? Yeah, let's take a closer look at who she is. Watch what she had to say after the arrest of their superintendent.
It seems fitting to take a page out of Dr. Roberts' book and ask the community to engage in radical empathy as we work through the situation together. We do not have all the facts. There is much we do not know. However, what we do know is that Dr. Roberts has been an integral part of our school community since he joined over 2 years ago. During his time with our district, he has shown up in ways big and small.
He was arrested.
All right, so hold on, let Brian finish this.
With a loaded handgun, a fixed blade hunting knife, $3,000 in cash.
Yes, but we need to practice radical empathy. There's a whole lot more that we need to find out. There's more to this story. Don't just take it if it. No, sometimes the story is exactly what it is on its face.
Seems fitting to take a page out of Dr. Roberts' book and ask the community to engage in radical empathy.
Radical empathy. So that is a buzzword for the left and for the DEI crowd. Okay, so who is this woman? That is the chairwoman of the Des Moines School Board. Her name is Jackie Norris, and she's also running for Senate as a Democrat, of course. There's a couple of lessons here. First of all, most of the people on your school board right now, it's not a mom or a dad or a grandma who wants to give back to the community and volunteer their time as a public servant so they can help the school system and help educate the kids. Oh, sure, there's a few of them, but most of them are careerist Democrats who are using your school board as a stepping stone to further their political career. And for Democrats, it makes a lot of sense because when you're on the school board, you're going to be in touch with all of those powerful teachers union presidents. They've got all the money. They've got all the organization. They help you get on the school board. You do whatever they want to make sure that they get a nice, fat, lucrative contract next time around. And then when you're running for your next political office, it's payback time. That's how it works. So when she's not running for Senate in the state of Iowa, she's the chair of the Des Moines School Board. It makes perfect sense. Take a look at some of the people on your school board right now in the major city close to you. Maybe not your little neighborhood if you live in a suburb or in the rural areas. The closest big city to you. Take a look at who's on the school board. Find out what their history is. Find out how they're politically connected. And even more so, find out how many of them don't even have kids. But they're on that school board and they're making very political decisions with your kid's future. That's her, Jackie Norris. She led the charge to hire this criminal illegal alien, and now she wants radical empathy from you. as they figure out what their cover story is. Oh, another thing you should know about young Jackie Norris. She was Michelle Obama's chief of staff. I mean, the jokes just write themselves. There's more about this guy. You heard her just praising him. Oh, we should take a page out of his book and express radical empathy. And he's just been an indelible mark on our school system and our children. And it's just been so great to have him for these last 2 years. Laura Powell, attorney out of California, has done a deep dive here. Take a look at this stuff. Court records show that Robert's birth date is December 18th, 1970, but his original Wikipedia entry, created by an account that nearly matches a handle Roberts uses, said he was born December 18th, 1978. Records from athletic competitions list his date of birth as December 18th, 1973. More, Roberts is quoted in 2020 referring to Guyana as his birthplace and saying that his father immigrated to the States in the 80s, his mother in the 2000s, but in 2024, a local news story, he claims he was born in Brooklyn and raised by a single mother. His Facebook lists 2 secondary schools in Guyana as his alma maters. This guy is a charlatan, it looks like. His LinkedIn lists a lot of universities, though notably the degrees are absent. He calls himself a doctor, right? Elsewhere, he claims 2 master's degrees and 2 doctorates in addition to a bachelor's. I found some sources that claim he has a PhD, but I'll presume these were honest errors. It appears he does have an EDD from an online university. He also claims he did a postdoc at Harvard. During the years that Roberts supposedly was earning numerous graduate degrees, he also claims to have been continuously employed as a teacher for a few years, then as a school administrator for almost 2 decades. His LinkedIn indicates that he was moonlighting as an executive leadership coach and a chief thought partner for a private company since 2020, while he was the superintendent for 2 different school districts. I'm not going to bother to share all the bios that inflate his job titles to the point of lying, but it goes on and on. And get this, Robert's official bio from his current employer, Des Moines Public Schools, says that while in the nation's capital, he was named the George Washington University 2013 Washington, D.C. Principal of the Year. I've searched and searched and can't find any record of this award, nor can I find a record of George Washington University giving out a Principal of the Year award to anyone, ever. Roberts was a principal at Anacostia High at the time. If any students want to look into it, Anacostia High School is in Prince George's County, Maryland. In fact, the Maryland connections run deep. We'll get to that in a minute. One of Robert's most interesting claims from his bio in his 2009 self-published book is that he was a commissioned military officer and a police officer detective. He dropped the service from his resume until 2022 when a run-in with law enforcement became public. After pleading guilty to violating Pennsylvania gun laws, he released a statement that insinuated the officer was motivated by racism and mentioned that he was a trained commissioned military officer with a wealth of experience in firearms training and safety. I found some indications that he was in the Guyanese military, and this would explain the gap he had before entering college in the U.S. in 1995. Depending on which birth year is accurate, he was either 17, 22, or 25 in 1995. And the deep dive goes on and on. You should check out Laura Powell's X feed so you can read into this guy. But the bottom line here is, you know, it's hard to criticize a scrappy, young, ambitious immigrant from Africa who comes here illegally, violates all of our laws, and then creates some sort of fantastic biography of himself, claims to be a doctor of education, and then gets a job as the superintendent of schools for Des Moines. He's just following his American dream after all. But what about the school board? An all-female Democrat woke school board went out of their way to hire this guy. And was there a basic background check done? Was anything checked about this guy? Here's Laura Powell in just 24 hours finding all of these discrepancies, and no one who works at the Des Moines school system or for the school board hiring a superintendent in charge of the public schools budget, finances, vision, curriculum, not to mention the safety of all of the children of Des Moines. Not one person looked into the background and started cross-checking some of these claims. Not one person. Well, because the priority wasn't hiring the best and the brightest and the most competent and the most trustworthy and the most principled. What was the goal? Well, you can see it right here in the announcement and bio of Dr. Ian Roberts, superintendent. Dr. Roberts came to Des Moines after serving as superintendent of the Mill Creek Township, Pennsylvania School District for 3 years, where his focus was culturally responsive, quality, and equity-based instructional leadership that prepared every student for college or a career. Diversity and equity. That's what the goal was. Who has time for cross-checking facts and criminal records and immigration status and basic claims about one's background, resume, and education when you're hiring for diversity and equity? Diversity über alles. And they got exactly what they wanted in Dr. Roberts. They got a criminal. In fact, there's the beautiful mugshot. Looks a little different there, doesn't he? Ian Andre Roberts, according to this record, this is a voting record in Greenbelt, Maryland. As I mentioned, Prince George's County, Maryland, right outside Washington, D.C. Of course, he's a registered Democrat, but he's registered to vote in Maryland. This is his voter ID card. Registration status is active and registered. He registered in January of 2012 as a Democrat. Well, there you go. He's a registered Democrat. Wait a second. I thought he was in the country illegally. Well, there's got to be some mistake here. Illegal immigrants don't register to vote. Everyone knows that. It's a myth. It's a myth that illegal aliens are registered to vote, let alone actually vote. I'm sure he hasn't broken those laws. Oh, sure. He's willing to break the law against our immigration. He's willing to break our law against working as an illegal immigrant. He's willing to break our laws about firearms and owning firearms and carrying firearms illegally. He's willing to violate all of those laws. But certainly he wouldn't violate the sacrosanct laws against illegal immigrants voting in our elections. That would be a bridge too far, right? Yeah, exactly. By the way, you want to really be stunned? After everything that we've learned, after everything that I've told you, after all of the insanity of this guy being in charge of the future of Iowa children in Des Moines, they're outside the jailhouse protesting on his behalf. They want him free. They think he's the victim.
All day, Dr. Ian Roberts, superintendent of Des Moines Public Schools, was arrested by ICE, detained by ICE this morning. Now, hundreds of people have gathered here in downtown Des Moines demanding his release.
I believe I said earlier in this program that Great Britain has a problem. We've got a problem. That is insane. When you look at everything that I just laid out to you about this guy and about the lies about his background and his criminal record, he's now been arrested. He fled police. He hid in the bushes. They had to use a dog to track him down. He had an illegal loaded firearm in his car and a blade, $3,000 cash. He's been bilking the taxpayers of Des Moines, lied on his application for the job, and lied in his bio and his resume, lied when he filled out his I-9 form. You know how we all have to fill out an I-9 form to prove that you're in the country legally? He lied on that. He probably is guilty of identity theft using somebody else's fake Social Security number. And when you look at all of that, the lunatics in Des Moines on the political left, the Democrats, they see in this entire story ICE agents being the bad guys. Federal law enforcement officers actually enforcing the law against this guy and making sure that he's not around children. They're the bad guys. And the hero is the criminal. Did I mention he was a Democrat? Just wanted to make sure you got that part. All right, let's get to your super chats now. That story is so lunatic insane to me. Let's start with Rumble. $5 from Arthur Brogdon. Forget it, Larry. It's London Town. I know that reference. That's a Chinatown reference. You're right, but we got to fix London. We got to fix England. We can't just walk away and say, they deserve it. No. We love our Brits. Also, $5 from Arthur Brogdon. A sufficiently large bureaucracy is indisguisable from authoritarianism, with apologies to Arthur C. Clarke. That is a paraphrase, but I like it and it's powerful. Thank you, Arthur. And then we've got some super chats here on the YouTube platform. Stumble Boots, you're cool too. I'm cool even in Montreal. All right. Bonjour, by the way. God's best friend with a £5 super chat. Free speech is the freedom of the police to protect the freedom of all the people, never to be offended. Yeah, exactly. How dare you offend? That's it. You're going to jail. It's a nightmare. Jeremy Grant with a Gant, excuse me, Jeremy, $9.99. The Brits. How about the Britons? Are about to get a hard lesson. When you bend the knee to the globalist and woke left, it's terrifying to watch. I'm afraid we're just seeing the beginning of something bad. Or we're seeing the beginning of a counter-revolution in England. That's what I think I'm seeing. And Keir Starmer is on borrowed time. Jeremy Gant, $4.99 super chat. Even with all the actions of their government, I'm proud of the British citizens starting to truly wake up. Amen, Jeremy. I agree. Jeff Dupuis, Sr. God, I love that epic beard of yours, Jeff. $2 super chat. Pray for Larry when he travels outside of America. Yeah, so I'm at a restaurant last night. By the way, Kurt Schlichter and his wife are up here traveling with me in Meredith. It's exactly what you imagine. And we go to a restaurant last night, and everyone's ordering steak. And the burger just sounded so good. And I said, I'll have a burger, please. Medium rare. And the waiter goes, no. And I'm like, what do you mean, no? And he's like, I'm like, the chef won't serve it medium rare? But he said, no, it's the law. It's the law in Canada to protect you that you can't order a medium rare hamburger. It has to be cooked thoroughly, and ironically, they cook it like a hockey puck. Not that they know anything about hockey up here, because they haven't won a Stanley Cup since the early 90s. It will never not be funny that Las Vegas has won a Stanley Cup more recently than any Canadian hockey team. So I get my burger, and it was fine. Good meat tastes good, even if it's overcooked. But it wasn't great. It would have been better medium rare. But here's the kicker. Are you ready for this? On the same menu where you can't order a hamburger medium rare, I could have gotten steak tartare. Steak tartare. Can someone explain to the Canadians what steak tartare is? I should have asked them, I'd like the steak tartare, but could you put it in a frying pan for about a minute on either side and then give it to me on a bun? There's your medium rare hamburger. What the hell is going on up here? And the idea is that they're trying to keep you safe. They know better. The government is keeping you from eating a medium rare burger because it might make you sick. Meanwhile, they were fine with euthanasia up here. I should have just told them that I want to kill myself, but I want to kill myself by eating a medium rare burger. Okay? And then the government would have paid for it. It's subsidized euthanasia. Anyway, sorry, Jeff. Went off on a tangent there. It's good to be in Canada. I'm enjoying it. Really, I am. God's best friend with a £2 super chat. Remind me not to buy a house in Des Moines. Here, I will remind you at all times. Patrick with £10. The digital ID is from the UN Agenda 2030. Its aim is to build toward a global ID system to enable universal access to healthcare and benefits in any country and enable the right to vote anywhere. Yeah, it's even more insidious than that, Patrick. You're right. And thank you for that. And we're praying for you guys over there. I hope you liked our segment we did just for our friends in the UK. Handle with a $2 super chat. All those constables were Nazis, straight up. Yeah, and I would love for any of our Brit friends to tell us, what is a police liaison with the powder blue? They seem to be, they're the ones who like do they're the ones that you're supposed to talk to if you're complaining about the cops, or I wasn't clear on what that was. Handy with a $3 super sticker, dropping the mic with no comment. Thank you. Love that cat playing the guitar. Psychological projectionist with a £2 super chat. Safer for Brits to follow U.S. politics than our own. Yeah, that's true. Are you guys allowed to make like inflammatory comments on Facebook about American politics? That they let you do? That's interesting. Thank you, PP. Deb Longo with a $9.99 super chat. Love Larry. We can catch them in sanctuary states, but local liberal courts let them go. Maryland, will they charge him federally? Yeah, good question, Deb. I'm a Marylander too, as you know, and I want his voting record polled. You should be able to poll how many times this guy voted, and yeah, I want to know if they're going to charge. He should be charged with federal crimes if he's crossed state borders and if he's voted. So we will look into that. Although I think registering to vote is a federal crime too. So they should be able to get him for that. Thank you, Deb. Very sweet of you for that 99 super chat. Are we good?
That's it. You want to move on?
Ooh, Havre de Grace. I love Havre de Grace, Mike Shriver Ministry. Sorry, I'm reading the Havre de Grace is a beautiful place in Maryland. We are moving on. Let's get right to our next segment. Well, Dinesh D'Souza has done it again. Brand new film, The Dragon's Prophecy. And listen, you're going to want to know the website right now. It's called thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. This hits theaters October 6th and October 8th. Why not October 7th? Well, watch this trailer for this brilliant film, and I think it'll explain everything. And then we're going to have a conversation with the filmmaker, Dinesh D'Souza. Here we go.
Then another sign appeared in heaven. An enormous red dragon. Revelation 12:3.
Once again, an armed attack in the Middle East, but this time it's different.
October 7th was the devil's holiday.
It's very hard to believe what happened, even though I was there and seeing with my own eyes and seeing them laughing and killing and having fun with it.
Because if you don't open the door, they are going to kill you and they are going to kill me, so please open the door.
So who are the Jews? Who are the Palestinians? And whose land is it really? Could the fate of the world, of humanity itself, be somehow tied to this place?
The nation of Israel is a resurrected nation. So what if there was going to be a resurrection of another people, an enemy people of Israel? The Bible speaks about this whole war as a dragon representing the enemy attacking a woman representing Israel.
The civilian deaths on both sides represent victories on the part of the dragon.
Hamas did everything within their ability to maximize the civilian casualty.
We came back to a land that was largely barren and empty, and we brought it back to life, and we're going to keep it.
The devil hates the Jewish people because they represent the existence of God.
Because without that Jewish foundation, there is no Christianity.
If we're approaching the end of time, God will reveal himself more and more dramatically.
Speak back through the stones. The story that they've been telling is that Israel is a colonial project. The problem with that is the city of David. We are an inconvenient truth.
Are you aware of any significant archaeological finding that contradicts the Bible?
No.
God's word stands firm. The dragon will not prevail. Your message here is become a dragon slave.
Based on Jonathan Cahn's #1 international bestseller, The Dragon's Prophecy.
Incredible work by Dinesh D'Souza. We're used to seeing that from your films, though, Dinesh, but you've got to be particularly proud of this, considering what it means, what it's about, and how important it is at this very moment.
Absolutely. My earlier films have focused in one way or another on the meaning of America. This film is much wider. It takes in the world. It also includes the political debate, but it also includes the moral debate, the biblical perspective, biblical archaeology, but also a hint of biblical prophecy. So it draws you in and shows that ultimately this is about good and evil, and it's about a choice that we all have to make.
And it's one of the things I really appreciate about it because of the scope of it and being able to it's very difficult in a 15-minute television on cable news segment or even in a 1-hour long-form conversation podcast that we've seen so much trying to address this issue. It's hard to take in all of the aspects of this. They try to narrow it down to the 1940s and colonization or the current Netanyahu government and various things. This issue is much bigger than all of those things. It's literally millennia old. So I want to start the way your film starts because it is gripping. It begins with unseen, to most people's eyes, October 7th footage. And what I found so obscene about it, frankly, Dinesh, is that most of the footage is from the terrorists themselves. They were proud of what they did. They bragged about it. They wanted the world to see it.
Yeah, the film almost begins with you, on a motorcycle with the GoPro, and you're riding into Israel from the Gaza side with the terrorists. And that is because, as you said, this isn't Israel footage, this is Hamas footage. And they were proud of it. They put it out there. And yet most of the world hasn't seen it. Most people know about October 7th, but they have no experience of what that was like. So we begin by drawing you in. Now, one of the arresting points made by Jonathan Cahn, who wrote the best-selling book, The Dragon's Prophecy, is he says, look, we have a battle here between Israel and Hamas, and we're tempted to look at it very narrowly. It's another terrorist act. It's a local war. He says, but what if this battle was a recreation, he calls it a resurrection, of an ancient battle between Israel and its classic enemy, the Philistines? To take a single example, if you look at a guy like Samson, a figure out of the Bible, he represents the strength of Israel, and he's captured by the Philistines. Now, by the way, the name Philistine, Palestine, it's the same name. And not only that, but the Philistines occupied an area that was called Philistia, made up of 5 cities, the notable one of them, Gaza. So Gaza's in the Bible. Yeah. Philistines capture Samson, they blind him, just like Israel was blinded in October 7th. They drag him back, the Bible says, to Gaza. The Bible continues, the people of Gaza demanded that Samson be stripped and that he be brought out so that he could entertain the people. This is exactly what happened after October 7th. They took the hostages into Gaza, they stripped them, they paraded them, people were dancing with joy, Allahu Akbar. And so, in a way, Samson was the very first hostage of Gaza. And if you look at it in that lens, you begin to see that what is happening now goes back to the very beginning. There is a kind of biblical angle to interpret current events that brings them home in a very powerful, I think, spiritual way.
So in that sense, because oftentimes this is sort of described as a religious struggle, a struggle between the Jews and Christians, because there are plenty of Christians who live in Israel too, and Islam. But the Philistines, they were pagan. They predated Muhammad and the rise of Islam. So what are we to make of that?
Well, what we make of that is that these battles don't take the identical shape, right? And the Philistines are actually, very interestingly, they're not Arabs. They're not Semites. They were called the Sea Peoples. They came from Europe. They were Europeans who came from the Aegean, places like Cyprus. So when some people say, well, the Arabs are indigenous to Gaza, Palestine, Philistines, no, 2 distinct people. The point, though, here is to stress the similarity of the tactics. And the tactics are eerily similar, almost identical. I think the other element of all this is the role of biblical archaeology, which has kind of come into its own in just recent decades. Why? Because interestingly, as the world has become more secular, it's almost as if God is like speaking back through seals, clay seals, through tablets, inscriptions, stones coming out of the ground, which are validating the truth of the Hebrew and the Christian scriptures. But more than that, they're demonstrating without a shadow of the doubt the ancient presence of the Jews in that land, going back not just to Jesus 2,000 years ago, but to David and Solomon, which is 3,000 years ago, Abraham, basically 4,000 years ago. So the Jews are the indigenous people of Israel.
And that's critically important considering all of the talk that we're hearing, sadly, from politicians here in America, talking about colonization and about the oppressors and the oppressed, typical Marxist language, and they like to reflect it into the current status of Israel and their hostile neighbors. But why is there even a doubt here? That's what boggles my mind as I watch this movie. On October 8th, there should have been no doubt about what this war is really about and who is evil here. But I was shocked within weeks on college campuses and in the halls of Congress, you had people of a certain political affiliation saying, yeah, because of October 7th, we've got to give the terrorists everything they demand. How did this happen, Dinesh?
And not only is that baffling unto itself, but as you know, there is now a kind of anti-Israel faction gathering force on the right,
which is also, that too, yeah.
Yeah, and so we're dealing with all of this. Now let's look for a moment, the colonization charge. Number one, you can't colonize your own land, right? This is like accusing the Indians of colonizing India. No, they were there from the beginning. It is their land. True, the Jews left, but they didn't leave voluntarily. If they had backed up and left, you could say, well, they chose to abandon it. No, they were pushed out. They were forced out. And so we are really witnessing a biblical miracle. These people who were scattered for 2,000 years have come back, not just come back together, come back to their ancient ancestral land. They revive the Hebrew language. They eat the same food. They have the same holidays. They worship the same God. I mean, this is something just from a secular point of view, completely spectacular. The second thing is that land was colonized by the Muslims. You know, when Islam started out in the Arabian desert in the 7th century, all of what we call the Middle East was Christian. Syria,
who are
Jordan,
the colonizers here?
all of that. The Islamic armies came in. In fact, what they did was they took the site of the old Solomonic temple and they put a victory arch on top of that called the Dome of the Rock. They built a mosque, the Al-Aqsa Mosque next door. And so they claim that the holiest site of Judaism and Christianity to be their own. It's like, we rule it now. So that, if anything, is a symbol of Islamic colonization, and no one really talks about it.
Yeah, that's right. And that's all sort of laid to bear here, especially the focus on the archaeological evidence of whose land this was from the get-go. It all backs up what the Bible tells us, what Scripture has told us, and what we've held true. When you go to the Al-Aqsa Mosque, if you want to see the Wailing Wall, which is the last remaining wall of the temple, you got to go down because they built it on top of it. And that's how archaeology works.
You know, even if you want to say, look, we're not going to decide this issue based upon the Bible, this is kind of how I look at it. There are three ways to kind of get a country, right? One is you were there first. Number two is you got it through some sort of negotiation or treaty. And number three, you got it by conquest. I cannot think of a single way that any territory, any border in the world was established outside of those three ways.
Yeah.
Now let's apply it to the Jews. Number one, they were there first. Check. Number two, the UN gave it to them after World War II. Check. Number three, they fought multiple wars. Let's start with 1948, 1967, 1973. They've held the land by conquest. Check. So it's really hard to think of a people who more obviously possess the title deeds to their own land than the Jews.
That's right. Our friend and colleague Dennis Prager makes this point all the time, that almost at the exact same moment in world history in the 20th century, the UN recognized Pakistan as its own country in the exact same way with the exact same conditions, and it was based on their race and their faith. Why does no one doubt whether Pakistan should exist versus Israel? And
this is absolutely true. I'd like to say a word about the critique from the right, because this is a question Tucker Carlson had posed to Ted Cruz. He goes, hey, you know, are you really saying that the Jews of today, like Netanyahu's Jews, are the descendants of the ancient Israelites? And I posed that question directly to Netanyahu and get a very feisty answer. So what's interesting about this film, I think, is that it is timely. It is right in the teeth of the current debate. At the same time, it steps back and gives you a kind of timeless or broader perspective so that you can see not only what came before, archaeology, what's happening now, but also what does the Bible foretell about what's going to happen next? This is the very tantalizing issue of biblical prophecy, which is also touched on in the dragon's prophecy.
Yeah, let's talk about that. And by the way, I want to take a moment to remind everyone, and the URL's right on the screen if you're watching on any of our video platforms. It's thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. That's possessive S without the apostrophe, but make sure that S is in there. Thedragonsprophecyfilm.com. And really important to get to the theaters on October 6th and 8th. You got to send Hollywood a message that you want movies like this. Buying a ticket and going to the theater and bringing your family, if you're homeschool parents, get them out there. Now, I should warn you, there is disturbing imagery in this film, but it's I think it serves a moral purpose, Dinesh. Is that a good way to put it? Because it's not gratuitous violence. It's there for a reason.
It's not the most disturbing or brutal footage. We obviously were considerate of people's sensitivities. On the other hand, it does put you there. It shows you what that was actually like. And you can't really understand. I mean, think about it. Could you really understand the Pacific War and World War II if you had no sense of what Pearl Harbor was like? No, you'd kind of want to see it. And we're in a very visual age, and movies are very powerful because they can put you on the scene. Also, the strength of my own films, if I think back to 2000 Mules and so on, is I like to show it to you. If I'm making a film about, the people robbing Fort Knox, you want to see them come in the window. And the same is true here. So yes, I make the films also for the theater. They are very dramatic. They're not a typical documentary. They're more like a movie. And so if you can see it in the theater, do. If not, the next day, October 9th, it'll be in streaming. DVDs will arrive in your mailbox. So if you insist on seeing it at home, no problem. It's available. But you're right. It's a one-stop shop to get tickets, thedragonsprophecyfilm.com.
So what I found striking about the film also in the way you present it, Dinesh, and I think it's important to present it this way, is that this isn't necessarily a Jewish concern or a political concern or an Islamic. This is a human concern. And if you do want to shoot this through the lens of your religion or your specific faith, this is very much a Christian concern, what's going on over there right now.
Absolutely. Let's take a small example of Pontius Pilate, who is a figure in the Bible, very famous. He's the one who presides over the trial of Jesus. Until very recently, Pontius Pilate was in the Bible, but he was nowhere else. There was no extra biblical or non-biblical confirmation of Pilate. And so a lot of skeptics could say, well, who knows if this guy even existed? Maybe the biblical writers made him up. But then recently, out of the ground comes a stone inscription in northern Israel, Caesarea by the sea. And what does it say? Pontius Pilate, prefect of Israel. Boom. Suddenly, this figure in the Bible for so long, for 2,000 years, springs to life archaeologically with indubitable confirmation of his existence. And by the way, the same can be said of Isaiah, of Jeremiah, of King David. They actually have the ruins of his palace. I'm standing in those, huge 20-foot walls. And it's all very spectacular and I think exhilarating for those of us. I mean, I'm a Christian. And so to see the Bible confirmed in this way, as I discovered this archaeology, I'm like, why isn't this being shouted from the rooftop of every synagogue and church? And so I'm hoping that does become the case as the general public sees all the stuff that has been discovered, most of it, by the way, in the last 25 years.
Well, the New Testament is concealed in the Old, and the Old is revealed in the New. And or did I get that the other way around?
No, that is right.
Augustine will spank me for that. But the fact is, you're not really practicing your Christian faith unless you have a really full understanding of the Jewish people and the nation of Israel. This brings us to this fascinating figure, Jonathan Cahn. As you said, his book, The Dragon's Prophecy, became the basis for this film, and you have a sit down with him. And he is a very complex figure when it comes to this region and his faith, right?
Yeah, he describes himself as a Jewish follower of Jesus. And he is,
by the way, all the apostles could describe themselves the same way.
This is absolutely right. And one of the things that archaeology is finding is that the earliest churches were synagogues. People think that the earliest churches were built by Constantine in the 4th century. No, the early Jews who followed Jesus met in synagogues. In fact, when Paul goes to preach, he goes off to Smyrna, he goes to Asia Minor, he goes to Greece. Where does he preach? Most of the time in synagogues. So these were, you can actually accurately call them the Judeo-Christians, because they were Jews who saw themselves as Jews. They observed all the Jewish practices, they observed the Jewish holidays, but they were followers of Jesus. So Cahn is kind of in that remarkable tradition. I think also he's very insightful about making comparisons between the biblical descriptions and what's happening today. He points out, for example, the 4 colors of the apocalypse. You go through them: the white horse, the green horse, the black horse, the red horse, each of them representing famine and suffering and death. And then he goes, now let's take a look at the colors of the Palestinian flag. It's white for the white horse, red for the red horse, black for the black horse, green for the green horse. And when you're watching this, you go, whoa. This, I suppose you can dismiss one of these examples as a coincidence, but then you go on. The word Hamas, apparently in Hebrew, means violence. And the Bible in Hebrew says things like, Lord, rid me of the men of Hamas. Hamas dwells in the dark places. And so again, with Cahn, you suddenly get this feeling that these contemporary events are being situated in their larger biblical perspective.
because of that, Dinesh, and because you dive into the historic origins of this violence and these two factions that seem to be at each other's throats for millennia, going all the way back to David and even before King David. Is there a concern here that when people look at the current situation, that it just appears to be hopeless? That you look at it and you say, oh yeah, they've been killing each other for thousands of years. Nothing's going to change. Nothing will solve it. How do we get to a point where we actually see how this ends?
Well, I think that it may be that at an ultimate level, this will sort of never be solved until the very end of time.
Until the second coming.
Yeah, there's some indications in the Bible that, and look, they're supported by empirical evidence, right? I came to this country in the United States in 1978. We had the Carter peace plan, the Reagan peace plan, the Clinton peace plan. People have been trying to fix it for a century without notable success. And maybe, as I say, ultimately, it won't be fixed in our time. However, it's not to say that there can't be intermediate or interim solutions that bring an end to the immediate hostilities, that figure out a way to deal with Gaza. So in the latter part of the film, there's the political dimension. I sit down with the ambassador, Mike Huckabee, with Netanyahu one-on-one. And it's a very interesting conversation. I asked Netanyahu questions like, so what do you make of Jesus, right? It's interesting to see that the Jewish head of a Jewish state answer that question.
Yes.
We also deal, I think, very honestly with the issue of civilian casualties. And in this context, it's worth mentioning something that a former Israeli prime minister, Golda Meir, said. This line is, by the way, quoted in the film. She goes, "We can forgive the Arabs for killing our children, but we cannot forgive them for forcing us to kill their children." And this is such a profound line to me and represents the horror of civilian casualties on both sides. But it also assigns, I think, appropriate blame to the Arabs for grabbing their wives and kids and sticking them in front so they do the home invasion, they run away, and then they parade, then they hide behind the civilians and say, "We dare you to shoot, we got civilians right here." I mean, this is a very despicable and loathsome, and I would say even this is a tactic worthy of the dragon. By the way, the dragon in the Bible, in the book of Revelation, really symbolizes the devil himself.
I don't know if it was Arafat, but one of the terrorists of the last several decades in this conflict said that what we will never understand is that they love death more than we love life. And that's a chilling thing to hear laid out in front of you. I do want to ask about the current political, because as we speak, Prime Minister Netanyahu is meeting with President Trump at the White House, and it's been suggested that they are closer to an end of conflict agreement over there. How important is it that President Trump chose a Southern Baptist Christian Zionist? I think it's fair to describe Mike Huckabee as a Christian Zionist. How important was it for President Trump to send that message that we view this conflict from that perspective here in America? And how do you think President Trump is doing in navigating the very treacherous terrain that he's on right now with this war that he inherited?
There are some very interesting ideas in at least the reports of the outlines of the Trump plan. I think Trump understands you have to root Hamas one way or another out of Gaza. We don't have to root the Palestinians out, but we have to root Hamas out.
Can I pause you, Dinesh? Because I mean, maybe I'm cynical, but even if they say, okay, fine, we'll disband and disarm, they're just going to reconstitute under a different flag and a different name, aren't they?
Yes, unless they are given a alternative path. So let's say, for example, that you offered them the path that said, listen, you're going to have a clean apartment, you're going to have a job, you're going to have proper policing, you're going to have an educational system that will actually teach you things and not just make you a soldier of jihad. We're going to give you that alternative road. Now, you can all decide to reject it, and maybe your minds have already been polluted, and maybe your children have already been indoctrinated. But, you know, history shows that offering this alternative path, now Trump very kind of in his own whimsical way says, we're going to make it a Riviera. But I think what he's saying is we're going to offer these people peace and prosperity, which, by the way, they could have chosen at the outset. They elected Hamas. They didn't go that road, but that road may still be open to them. So at least that offers a kind of a hopeful path, a fork in the road. They may, as I say, reject it. and perhaps, you know, they, as I say, they're constituted in such a way now that they have become creatures of Hamas. I don't think it's fair to say that there's some great gulf between Hamas and the people. The people shelter Hamas. There are guns in every basement. So Gaza has been, you know, Hamasified, if I can invent a phrase. I don't know whether to be optimistic or pessimistic. The best, I think, as Christians we can do is to be hopeful.
Yeah, and prayerful, for sure.
And prayerful.
Dinesh, congratulations on the film. Really is a spectacular achievement. I hope it does astoundingly well. There's a hunger for this. It's amazing that it's been 2 years since this devastating terror attack, and there really hasn't been a treatment like this that really takes it seriously and shows the world what happened that day and truly what started it and who started it. And I think that's pretty relevant last time I checked.
You know, what's funny, Larry, is that October 7th falls on a Tuesday, and movie theaters have, like, you know, they have sort of your basic discount tickets on Tuesday, so they don't allow us to buy out the theaters on Tuesday. So if you're wondering why is the film available October 6th and October 8th, that's Monday, October 6th, Wednesday, October 8th, and then October 9th, it goes into streaming.
All right. Thank you for explaining that, actually. I just thought it was out of deference and respect for the day, but no, of course, it's the upside down movie industry.
Half price night on Tuesdays. And so there's the movie theaters are the ones who set that schedule for us.
Well, like I said, send a statement, everybody. Go to the dragonsprophecyfilm.com, buy your tickets. It'll show you exactly where it's playing, where you live. Go see it in the movie theater, and then you can buy the DVD and stream it at home as well. It's great stuff. It really is. It's educational. It is enlightening, and it's moving, and it's emotional. What more do you want from a film? Dinesh, thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
And that actually wraps things up for this show, too. Thanks for joining us. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. Yes, in this temporary set in Montreal. In the meantime, my name is Larry O'Connor. You can call me Larry.